burglar and a young kid break into the local house that everyone avoids, only to locate my anus in a fucking jar because I read the wrong line.
Yeah, you did.
Bing Rames takes a young kid to break into a house that everybody seems to avoid in the search for rumored gold, only to find that things are stranger behind those walls and underneath the stairs. And Wes Craven's kind of forgotten classic, The People Under the Stairs. Now, when I was a kid, this fucking thing was plastered in front of every damn show. It was like, dude, you got to go see this shit right now. I didn't back then. I had to wait, like I did when I was young, till it came to the local mom and pop shop. And when it did, I stuck that sucker into the old VHS, and I was like, that's a thing I saw. But it always stuck in my head, you know what I'm saying? And subsequent viewings have only endeared it more and more to my heart. I recently introduced you to it for the first time. I warned you it was going to be a strange ride, and I think you agreed. Let's talk about the pros and cons of this. I like to think it's a classic, man. I don't know about you.
I want to throw the first one out.
Mm-hmm. Pro number one, go.
Pro number one, Ving Rhames.
Ving Rhames in one of his earliest roles.
Oh.
You get to see him, with a little fucking, kind of like African hat on, so that's cool.
a little vest. I think he had a vest in our
very 90s leather, denim jacket, actually. And, later you get to see him dead, so that's all super cool.
Yeah, 10 out of 10 right there.
A big pro for me is that, kind of like a Romero movie, this has a lot to say about society. Mm-hmm. But it does it in a way where the entertainment is foremost in the movie. The subtext of the movie is subtle, and when you do read into it, it's very humorous. And that's one thing that I absolutely love. So that's another pro for me, is that there's a very dark, humorous undertone to this movie. There's overtone at one point.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
It goes from what you think this movie's going to be to what the fuck am I watching?
Why is Dean Koontz in a gimp suit?
Yeah, there's some wacky shit going on in this movie. And I love that, man. That's one of my favorite things about this movie. Another pro for me, dogs. Whenever they use dogs in a movie and it works, I'm happy.
Yeah.
And they use a lot of dogs in this movie. By that I mean there was one dog, but there was prosthetic dogs.
Yeah.
So dogs, I'm gonna say.
I want to say, just to add to your pro, animatronic dog is pretty great.
Yeah, man. The dog effects are winning in this. Yeah. So that's big pro, man. Dogs. I mean, and then of course, with Wes Craven, you got a certain feel to his movies, like this neighborhood type of feeling,
Yeah.
And that's always been kind of his thing, with a few exceptions here and there. You always feel like this is happening in some American neighborhood somewhere, unless it's Serpent in the Rainbow, which doesn't happen in America at all. But the point is, that feeling is pervasive here as well. And I've always enjoyed that about Craven's movies, And all of this is more on the sillier end of the spectrum. It still kind of has that feeling, and that was cool. Another pro for me is, this is another movie with effects from Effects Meisters, KMB, before they were KMB. And that's always fun to watch. And although the effects aren't front and center here, they're not even the focus. It is always very fun to see. Big pro for me also.
Corey Feldman?
The fuck Corey Feldman. Dude, why? And we'll talk about that in the cons, actually. Big pro, though, are the actors in this. They're all, across the board, pretty fucking awesome, man.
Yeah.
And they bring such a weird, twisted kind of B-movie feel to it. They're chomping at the scenery, but you could tell they're having fun. And they're being pushed to the limits of good taste at times, but in a way that's just so enjoyable to watch. It's impossible not to laugh at this movie, but that was the intent. There's a dark, humorous nature to it. A what the fuck nature to it. All big pros in my book. Hit me with your pros.
Pros, once again, Ving Rhames. You do get to see him dead, so that's pretty cool. That's my biggest pro. Puppet dogs, big pro. I gotta agree that there is that kind of weird feeling. It's like one of those movies you remember watching when you were a kid, but then you revisit it and it sucks, except take the part that when you revisit it sucks out.
Yeah.
It's one of those movies that actually lives up to what you remember watching. So that's neat. Even though I've never seen this movie, it felt like something I had seen before, which is weird. And yeah, I think the biggest thing is those performances are pretty damn great.
I think
it's schlocky fun.
That's a good point you make there, man, because nostalgia can be a motherfucker, you know? It could blind you to something's faults. And this movie's not without its faults, you know? The campiness can sometimes be so over the top that it might turn some people off.
Oh, yeah, it's not for everyone.
Not us, but it definitely can turn some people off. Some people don't like dark humor in their movies, in their horror movies. We do. We like all kinds of horror, and this just happens to be a darkly humorous movie. But yeah, it will turn off some people. But humor also has a way of not aging well. This one aged exquisitely well. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And again, the social themes also still hold up. Maybe they hold up even more today than they did back then. That's the crazy part.
Because this was made in a time where you could make that...
And nobody would cry about it?
In a comedic way, and no one would cry about it. Whereas it was made today, everybody would either laud it as the greatest thing ever or shit on it for even trying that.
Which brings us to this final pro we'll mention for now. And that this is technically a black horror movie, you know? And we got to champion Wes Craven because he did this not only once, but he did it several times, you know? He was a white director that brought black horror to the forefront because he was such a huge name up to his dying day that he allowed this movie to happen. He made it so that black actors, which, you know, we know they've had a rocky fucking history, black people in general, you know, but we're talking actors here.
Starring roles.
Yeah, get some starring roles and then be the central focal point of this movie.
And the white people are the weird ones.
Yeah. But not in a way where it's like offensive or anything. It's just, it's all done in good spirit and there's a good message behind it. And yeah, so that's pretty cool, man, that he actually did that. Not once, not twice, but thrice. And this was the second time he did it.
I want to give the biggest pro, and I think you'll share it with me. Mm-hmm. This movie is not Shocker.
Oh, fuck, man.
So that's the biggest.
I know Shocker has his fans, but fuck. I don't know, we got to revisit it, but fuck. The times I watched it and the time you watched it fucking sucked. But anyway, Shocker, this is not, thankfully. Let's talk about the cons in this movie. I'm not going to say this is a con, but if you're looking for effects, the ones that are there are not fantastic per se.
Yeah.
And they might not have aged incredibly well, but they are still pretty fascinating. So I'm just going to put it like it's a mild con if that's what you're looking for. What is a con is that the people under the stairs have fucking Fabio hair.
Yeah.
These fuckers have been so deprived of light. So they've been there, that they're pale, you know? So they've been there for, you know, countless amounts of years. Yeah. And yet they still have these styling.
Fabio. Apparently the people provide the people under the stairs with a moose.
Yeah.
and shit.
And Harlequin romance novels. Cause shit be like...
Also, a big one is, for some reason, Corey Feldman is the leader of the people under the stairs.
Yeah, one of the people under the stairs really looks like Corey Feldman. But yeah, man, that's a con for me. It's a mild con. It's a stupid nitpick, really.
Yeah.
I was glad to hear, we were watching the special features in this, and I was glad to hear that I was not the only one that thought this. Apparently, Robert Kurtzman thought so as well. What the fuck happens to the fucking people under the stairs once they get out? It's not a con. It's just something that always came up in my mind, and apparently I was not alone.
Get a freaking night job somewhere?
Yeah, yeah. I really can't personally think of any cons for this movie. So I'm going to try to think of cons for people that might not have seen this movie. If you're expecting Gorefest, this is not that. So that might be a con for you. If you're expecting a serious horror movie, that might be a con for you because this is not 100% serious horror
scares.
Movie. Yeah, if you're expecting a legitimately haunting horror movie, this is not that movie. So that might be a con for you. To us, these are not cons because we can invest our time into what the product is, and what this product is was super cool, man, and super fun and entertaining. So, you know, maybe some people won't enjoy the over-the-top acting, but I think that's kind of what makes this movie. Yeah. It's so wildly over the top. Anyway, do you have any cons?
Cons, the biggest con is it kind of goes with the Corey Feldman. It's just unfortunately, the designs for the people under the stairs kind of stink. It would have been neat to see something really neat, like big effects creature.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it would have kind of robbed them from the kind of weird. You kind of like them at the end.
You know what? Yeah,
The friendliness that they have, you know.
I think it would have been great if they just didn't have that 90s hair, man.
Yeah.
Because I get the concept. You know, they're so pale skin. They have the dilated pupils because, you know, lack of sunlight and all that. I get the concept. It's just, damn, them hairs, though.
Yeah, the hairs.
Boop!
And then there's that one guy that has like a skin cap, but he just kind of looks like the guy from freaking Fat Albert. So he doesn't look very menacing at all.
Speaking of Fat Alberts, we're a couple of them, and let's call the final details on this one. Not a lot of cons for us in this one, except for the cons in the movie, I guess, because Ving Rhames played a con. Ving Rhames!
Oh,
anyway, Ving Rhames is gay, I think. I'm just putting that out
Your
there.
obsession with making Ving Rhames gay.
It's all in me. Anything you want now, baby, I'll do not delay. Whoa.
Anyway, final thoughts and a final score on this on a scale of 1 to 10. Hit it.
Final thoughts. This baby has one of some of my favorite villains. This weirdly kind of reminded me of Frighteners, in that kind of weird, like, you know, villain that's kind of likable despite being super over the top. Unfortunately, it's not Jake Busey, but we do get a guy that kind of looks like Fred Willard and Dean Koontz mixed, and he has a gimp suit on for some reason. Also, David Byrne. So yeah, it was pretty cool to see the talking heads get into some really weird kinky shit. If you like incest, I guess this is your movie. They were banging, right?
Oh, yeah, they were banging.
Yeah, so there you go. Pretty damn fun. I expected to like it. I didn't expect this kind of movie.
Yeah.
And it was a freaking blast. It's up there with one of my horror comedies. Top 10, I would say.
Yeah, I'll give them final score.
Final score, I really liked it. Now, obviously, this is in the Kschlocky scale, I guess. I'll give it a solid 8.
Yeah.
I really liked it.
I'm with you, man. I'm mirroring that 8. I do feel there could be some things to improve the movie, but those mostly have to do with budgetary reasons, shit like that.
Maybe shave the Fabio hair.
The hair is the big one, man. It's like the Hancock soundtrack of this movie. But yeah, man, I think the movie holds up incredibly well. If you're into this type of movie, this is one that's going to stay with you and you're going to want to revisit. And that's ultimately the test of a fun, entertaining movie. Do you want to revisit it? Answer yes, man. Every time I've watched this, I've had a fucking blast with it. It never gets old. It's so silly and over the top. And yeah, I love like you, man. I love those villains. They're fucking crazy, man. They're weird.
And dog.
They're Norman Bates turned up to fucking 10 billion. You know, just really fun. I give that an 8 too. Check out People Under Stairs if you haven't seen it. It's definitely a different type of horror movie. And if you have seen it, tell us what you think about it. Hit like, share, subscribe, and the notification buttons below because we are outie.
We saw Ving Rhames in the movie. That was pretty cool. That's it. 10 out of 10.